Welcome to the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast. Thomas Miller here, along with Robert Glasscock. We are going to round the turn, especially now with Aquarius in this series that we've been doing for the last several months, if you're following us in real time, on the secrets of the 12 signs. This has been fascinating, and if you didn't catch the last episode on this series that we did on Capricorn, I would really encourage you to go back and listen to that. That's a really good one. But now we're going to talk about the Don't Tell Me What to Do sign of Aquarius and its secrets.
It's secrets.
So don't tell me any secrets, Robert.
Well, if you place Aquarius mentally on the first house, then you want to see where the sign of Pisces falls. It's the second house for Aquarius. So that now you're dealing with questions about secrets, about self-worth and money. Now, this can mean a lot of things. Aquarians, I think it was Linda Goodman in talking about Aquarians in relationships, and she said there's only room for one cuckoo in the clock, which was such a great line. But Aquarians are not necessarily cuckoo. But their whole lives, and they can find it, but their lives are, because they're so experimentative and really adventuresome, especially internally, intellectually, finding themselves, finding out who they are. Their identity becomes their secret quandary in a way, so that they can try a lot of, and some of them really will specialize very early, for example, in scientific or medical fields or technological fields, or even a field like yours, which is broadcasting, which has a lot to do with Aquarius and so on. They can find themselves early in life, but a lot of Aquarians do not. And in fact, this can go into their own self-worth again with Pisces on their second house. I'm sitting here thinking right now of a client who was married and had children, but then he decided, came out as gay. So he got divorced and left his wife and children, and so on, started this whole new identity, and really kind of, I think in many ways, floundered work-wise in his life, I guess because of finally deciding he was gay and going to go with that. But he ultimately did find himself as a counselor, actually. So it's that's the fluidity of the self-worth, I guess, in Aquarius, because they are experimentative. They want to try different things. And at different times in their lives, what they want to try is different. And it sometimes does mean a break with the past, which can sometimes be traumatic. It doesn't have to be. But do you see what I mean about this idea of confused self-worth and trying to figure out who they are and what they are? And of course, those things change over time. So their lives are in a process of that sort of self-discovery, and it can be puzzling to other people, to say the least. It is to them.
You know, what I'm thinking here is, what is the secret in this? The thing that I'm keeping you from understanding about myself?
The secret is I don't know who I am.
Wow. Then for an Aquarian who typically is very bold about who they are, there's this compartment that says, yeah, but I'm not so sold on it.
And that is why Aquarians have notorious difficulty with intimacy.
Oh, wow.
I don't know who I am, and I don't want you to know that I don't know who I am.
And if I don't know who I am, I can't know who you are.
That's right. That's exactly right. Excellent point, my friend. Yeah. So you begin to get an idea here, Thomas, of how valuable this little trick about secrets can be, because you're now getting into something very deep about Aquarian as an archetype.
Well, and it puts up such a big, bold front to cover it with. Don't tell me what to do. I'm unique. I'm my own individual who I don't understand.
Yeah, because really emotions, the water signs, the feeling archetypes in life are the problem for the air signs, all of us. I'm one too, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. So the feeling side of life, the emotional side of life, And that's Pisces, of course, and that's on their second house in Aquarius. And so this is why they are prone to be somewhat distant in relationship. Not that they're not wonderful, they are, and friendly and fun, but there's an emotional uncertainty with, I think even people that are involved with Aquarians secretly wonder, are they real? Are they going to be here in 20 years? Because they don't know, they can't tell emotionally, because that's that Aquarian propensity to hide its feelings, because feelings are vulnerabilities to Aquarians and threatening. Because if I feel so strongly and powerful about this one, and it's not that they can't, of course they can, but I'm just talking generally. If I feel this strongly and I love this person so much, what about me? What about my own life? Does that mean I have to sacrifice myself to love? See that whole sacrificial Piscean archetype that comes in here? So you can begin to analyze these signs on these houses in terms of secrets in a really enriching way.
Okay, so then what does the Aquarian do in order to resolve that secret?
I think live. Look, their lives are going to change. Now, this is not true, perhaps, for an Aquarian, let's say, who gets into physics in high school and goes on into quantum physics and becomes a renowned physicist. They may know very early who and what they are. But for most people, I think the key is to accept the fact that things change, life changes, and you change, and to not base life on impulsive, powerful, intense feelings in the moment, which they can do. They can fall in love, let's say, quickly. And I put it in quotes because that's what it feels like to them. Oh, my God, look at who I've just met. Isn't she wonderful? Isn't he wonderful? And they then, oh, let's move in together. So in weeks, they're living together and they don't even know each other. That's the sort of danger signal. But if they live their lives based on that sort of impulsivity, then they tend to get into more trouble. Whereas if they recognize that my freedom is a big part of me, I'm not going to move in with somebody I've just met in the last 2 weeks. That's silly. I'm going to enjoy them, but let's see where this goes, and so they begin to honor their own need to be thoughtful and deliberate rather than impulsive. And then they are secretly wonderful caregivers.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Seen that too.
Yeah, if somebody's in trouble, and this is one of the reasons they can make such excellent counselors and physicians and so on, caregivers, nurses, or any of those things, because they really do feel this secret compassionate side to them. So they may get into social work, or working with the homeless, or working with AIDS patients, and so on and so forth, because of that. And so I think if they can develop that compassionate side and not fear that they're going to drown in a relationship, then they're on the right track, because they really do. I mean, they're an amazing sign, very, very metaphysical and very spiritual, actually.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, look at what sign rules astrology.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So how can then a non-Aquarian, so like you and me, tell when our Aquarian friends get this figured out?
They'll let you know. They'll be happy. But genuinely happy. And it changes over their lifetimes. But Aquarians usually have a crisis in their lives, Thomas, around 42, when Uranus opposes Uranus. Everybody does, but with Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, their lives can often change drastically. I'm trying to think back to this guy I was just talking about. I don't know exactly when he decided how old he was, when he decided he was gay and was going to go explore all that. But it was around that age. And later in life, because when I had met him online, I guess he was in his 50s at this point. And oddly enough, he had gotten into working with AIDS youths, I believe. I'm trying to remember now. You see what I mean? So it was like a complete turnaround in his life. He'd been a salesman, I think, before that, and then moved to San Francisco, and and so began exploring all of that, and then ultimately wound up working in a really wonderful, compassionate kind of career vector.
The audiobook author that I've done so much work for, Fred Dodson, he's an Aquarian, and you're talking about this Uranus opposition around age 42. He had a situation that I think was pivotal for him, where somebody close to him, Fred is talking about the Aquarian, I'm very respectful of his privacy, but basically what happened was there was a bad financial situation that he lost. I mean, he was on the losing end of. And what he did was brilliant, because he said, well, first of all, he forgave the situation, released the situation, and then said, if my stuff is worth anything, then I'll be able to get all of this back. Should be no problem. And he did have all of it back within about, as he told the story, 18 months, completely. And that was a pivotal point for him financially, and he has been like a rocket ever since.
Mm-hmm. Because he found himself. And I love that story.
It wasn't now just theory. It wasn't just published in books. Now it was pounded into the anvil of his life.
And look at where he got. He got to Pisces on the 2nd in relation to Aquarius. If what I have is any good, I'll make it back. That is such a self-confident statement. And the big thing is to release the crime, release the injustice, release the betrayal, release the theft or whatever, but release it. It's happened. You can't do it. It's happened. So you start from there. And I love his attitude. If what I've got is worth anything to the world, I'm going to make this back. And he did it in 18 months. I'm impressed.
Well, Fred's stuff is very powerful. Anybody who's read his books or listened to his audiobooks or attended one of his events, which is where I heard this story, was the first event I attended with him. Money came up. It wasn't a money event, but money came up, and he told that story. And so that's why I say it's in public. I mean, people know about the story. I don't know that maybe he did put it in one of his books. I can't remember, but I don't think I'm stepping across any lines by just mentioning the general situation was bad situation turned into that pivot point that you're talking about.
And Thomas, just his making the statement to himself, if what I have to sell is worth it, I'm going to make this back. That is such a powerful self-confident statement of a person, a man in this case, who has found himself. And that's exactly what I think that episode in his life around that Uranus opposition was meant to test. Let's see. Do you really believe what you're saying? And yes, you do. Look at you. You do believe it. And look, it does work. And look, you can show other people. Big turning point and wonderful.
And that was exactly how he explained it at the seminar.
Yeah.
Because he had done his work before. This was that turning point catalyst to really launch it. Amazing. Well, thank you for this, and it certainly does fit the prototype of Aquarian, too. If you know some Aquarians, you might know somebody who could also slug in their own story into this prototype. If you'd like to schedule a reading with Robert, he is available. He's booking out a couple of months, maybe, but get in touch with him through our show notes, and also in the show notes is our Discord channel. I want to mention that specifically, our YouTube channel, which has its own Old Soul, New Soul Astrology podcast playlist that you can just get these episodes. And also, we're going to be doing some special stuff in our Discord that you're not going to want to miss. So stay close to our notes and our current episodes so that you'll know what's going on. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back to wrap up this series. Robert, we have one more to go. The secretest of them all, Pisces, and we'll be doing that in our next batch of releases. So we'll see you next time on the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology podcast with Robert Glasscock.